Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into the world of AI in healthcare, more specifically, the regulatory challenges it's facing.
Yeah, it's a really interesting area.
And to help us untangle all of this, we're looking at a piece by Claudio D'Antonoli titled, AI's Race to Regulatory Compliance. Will you lead or risk falling behind?
He's a digital compliance.
Right, so he's coming at this from a really interesting perspective. And in this piece, he talks about how AI has this enormous potential to, revolutionize healthcare. But, and this is a big but.
Always a but, right.
Right. It also kind of throws a wrench in the existing regulations, many of which were put in place before AI was even a thing.
Yeah, and it's not just that the regulations are outdated. It's more that, the traditional ways of ensuring compliance just can't keep up with the speed of AI.
It's true if you think about how fast AI is developing.
D'Antonoli makes this point about how we have all these, manual processes, tons of paperwork.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like we're stuck in the Stone Age sometimes.
And it's ironic, right? We've got AI that can, detect fraud in milliseconds or personalized treatment plans, but we're still stuck reviewing consent forms manually.
I know. It's crazy. So what does D'Antonoli suggest? How do we bridge this gap?
Well, he argues that, get this, we need to use AI to streamline compliance itself.
So fight fire with fire, essentially.
Basically, yeah. Think of AI algorithms that can sift through mountains of data, pinpoint potential risks, then they flag those risks for human review.
That would free up compliance experts to focus on the bigger picture stuff.
Exactly.
I like it. So instead of getting bogged down in the weeds, they can focus on strategy.
Exactly. It's imagine implementing a new privacy regulation, right?
Yeah.
AI could pinpoint which patient consent forms need updating and even automate sending out those updates.
Wow, that would save so much time and reduce errors.
Absolutely. And that brings up an important point.
Okay, go on.
This isn't about replacing human experts. It's about, augmenting their abilities.
Giving them superpowers.
Exactly. Making them more efficient and, honestly, more effective.
So it's this balance, right? Leveraging AI's strengths, but with that essential human oversight.
Absolutely. Especially because AI still struggles with things like context, judgment, those more nuanced human things.
It's true. AI can't quite grasp ethics yet, can it? But that actually brings up another point D'Antonoli makes about the talent gap.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Finding professionals who understand AI and the complexities of healthcare regulations. It's like finding a unicorn, right?
It's tough, for sure.
So what does he suggest we do about it? We can't just, magic up these experts.
No, definitely not. Well, he talks about the need for upskilling existing teams, offering more targeted training programs.
Makes sense?
And then also building partnerships with universities, attracting new talent, that kind of thing.
It's about being proactive in building that talent pipeline.
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's say we address this talent shortage. There's still this overarching issue of balancing innovation with, responsible regulation.
It's tricky. D'Antonoli talks about how too much regulation could stifle innovation and possibly even delay life-saving treatments.
Right, because imagine an AI-powered tool that could transform cancer detection, but it's stuck in bureaucratic limbo for years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, not enough regulation, well, that opens the door to a whole host of other problems.
Ethical nightmares, I'd imagine. We've got to consider those unintended consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Think about facial recognition in healthcare.
Okay.
It could be used to identify patients quickly, maybe even diagnose certain conditions.
Right.
But without proper guardrails, it could also be used for, discriminatory profiling.
It's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah.
So how do we find that sweet spot, that balance between encouraging innovation, but also ensuring things don't go off the rails?
Well, that's where D'Antonoli introduces this idea of proactive compliance.
What does that mean exactly?
So it's not enough to just react to new regulations as they pop up. Okay. You've got to anticipate the challenges, figure out your risk tolerance, and then bake compliance into the DNA of your organization from the get-go.
I see. So it's less about putting out fires and more about building a fireproof house in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And to do that, D'Antonoli highlights some practical steps organizations can take. For example, he stresses the importance of a thorough AI inventory.
Interesting. So knowing what AI you're using, where, and for what purpose.
Precisely. You have to know what you're dealing with before you can even think about compliance.
It's like taking inventory of your tools before you start building. Right.
Exactly. And once you've got that inventory, D'Antonoli says you need to classify your AI systems based on their risk level.
That makes sense. some AI applications are inherently riskier than others. And I'm guessing this is where understanding things like the EU's AI Act comes into play.
Exactly. Have you heard of it?
I have, but for our listeners who haven't, could you give us a quick rundown?
Sure. So basically, the EU's AI Act is a pretty groundbreaking piece of legislation. It categorizes AI systems based on how much they could potentially impact fundamental rights.
Okay, I see. So, for instance, an AI used to approve loans would likely be considered higher risk than an AI-powered chatbot for customer service.
Exactly. And, the higher the risk associated with an AI, the stricter the regulations will be. It's all about making sure those high-impact AIs are held to the highest standard.
It makes sense, but this is a moving target, right? I mean, the regulations around AI are constantly evolving.
You're absolutely right. Even just the definition of what constitutes a high-risk AI is still being debated. Organizations really need to stay informed and be ready to adapt.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. It's more like,
More like whitewater rafting than a leisurely boat ride.
I like that. Seems like having a guide would be pretty helpful in that scenario.
And that's actually another point that D'Antonoli stresses, the importance of seeking expert guidance.
Because let's face it, navigating this stuff often requires pretty specialized knowledge that most organizations might not have in-house.
It's true, and it's okay to admit you need help. Sometimes you need to call in the experts.
So legal professionals, AI ethicists, specialized consultants, it sounds like they can play a really valuable role in this.
They can help with compliance, sure, but also just generally with anticipating pitfalls and making sure AI initiatives are, actually aligned with the latest regulations.
It's like having a Sherpa to guide you through the Himalayas of AI regulations.
I love that analogy. But there's one more thing, and it might be the most important point of all.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Go on.
D'Antonoli argues that beyond expert guidance, organizations also need to focus on something he calls AI literacy.
AI literacy. That sounds interesting. So we're not teaching AI to read, are we?
Oh, no. He's talking about making sure everyone in an organization, from the top down, has at least a basic understanding of what AI is, what it can do, and, what it can't do.
So it's not just about having a few AI experts tucked away in a lab somewhere. It's about fostering a broader understanding of AI across the whole organization.
Exactly, because AI isn't just some, technological thing. It has the potential to reshape everything. Industries, societies, even what it means to be human.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if people don't understand it, they're not going to trust it.
Exactly. And trust is everything, especially when we're talking about something as important as healthcare.
Right, because if people don't trust it, they're not going to use it. It doesn't matter how innovative it is.
Exactly. AI literacy is about creating a culture of shared responsibility when it comes to AI, because the decisions we're making now about AI, they're going to have consequences for years to come.
That's a powerful thought. And I think it leads perfectly into the central question that D'Antonoli asks in his piece.
AI's race to regulatory compliance. Will you lead or falling behind?
He's really challenging organizations to step up and help shape the future of AI, to lead the way instead of just following the rules.
Exactly. It's a race, isn't it? A race against time, in a way.
Because the decisions we're making right now about AI, they're going to have huge consequences down the road.
And that's something for everyone to think about.
It really is. But for now, I think it's time we moved on to our final thoughts on this topic.
Well, I think if there's one key takeaway from all of this,
and we have covered a lot of ground, but
it's that AI, especially in healthcare, it's not just a tech issue.
It really is about people, isn't it?
It is, and D'Antonoli's call to action, it's not just for the big companies or the regulators, it's for all of us.
That's a good point. So what can our listeners do, even if they're not like CEOs or senators? What can they do to be a part of this?
Well, I think it starts with awareness, Learn about AI, the good and the bad. Talk to people about it, your friends, family.
Ask questions.
Yes, exactly. Don't just accept it, but challenge it. Demand transparency from the companies building these technologies.
Be an informed citizen, basically.
Exactly. And remember that AI, it's not some far-off thing. It's here now.
It's true. It's all around us.
It is, and it's shaping so much of our lives already. The healthcare recommendations we get, the financial decisions we make.
Everyone.
And that's why we need to approach it with, both excitement, but also a critical eye.
Be enthusiastic, but also cautious.
Yes, exactly. Be excited about the potential, but also aware of the risks, and never stop learning, never stop asking questions. Ultimately, we all have a responsibility to make sure AI is used for good.
That's a great point to end on. AI is a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's up to all of us to make sure it's used responsibly. responsibly and ethically, especially when it comes to something as important as healthcare. So thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI in healthcare and the regulatory tightrope it's walking. We'll see you next time.